What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Brandon Smith. Sorry to interrupt, Brandon here. Happy Canada Day. It is Canada Day here in Canada. I know that I have previously uploaded this video, but that video got a copyright claim. So I removed the offending content and re-uploaded the video. That is the version you're going to be watching now. Thanks so much for understanding. I'm still new at this, so I'm learning. Forgive me. Let's get back to the video. Today, I will be covering another anniversary case, as this story takes place exactly 25 years ago today. So that means for 25 years, this person's family and friends have been searching for resolution to no avail. So with that in mind, let me do my small part and recount for you the details of this unsolved mystery. Let's get into it. The day is Monday, June 23rd, 1997. The song I'll Be Missing You by rap icon Puff Daddy and late wife to the Notorious B.I.G., Faith Evans, featuring R&B group 112, is #1 on the Billboard charts. That was a lot. The film Batman and Robin, starring George Clooney and Chris O'Donnell, is #1 at the box office. And just 2 days ago, the Los Angeles Sparks host the New York Liberty in the inaugural game of the Women's National Basketball Association in the Great Western Forum in Inglewood, California. 375 miles up the coast from Inglewood in San Francisco, 18-year-old Kristen Modafferi takes off her barista apron after a long day of work, slinging caffeine. 45 minutes later, she is seen in the company of a mysterious blonde woman. Who this lady is and where Kristen goes afterwards remains unknown. This day in mystery. Monday, June 23rd, 1997 in San Francisco, California is a gorgeous, picturesque day. With a daytime high of 66 degrees Fahrenheit just 2 days into summer, residents of the Golden State couldn't ask for a more idyllic commencement of the season. 18-year-old Kristen Modafferi is brand new to the city, and she is already in love with the Bay City climate. Born in Danbury, Connecticut, but raised in Charlotte, North Carolina, Kristen is a model American teenager. The daughter of Debbie, a teacher, and Bob, an electrical engineer, Modafferi is described as bright, eager to learn, and everything a parent could ask for in a child. In 1996, Kristen is accepted to North Carolina State University under the benefit of a Park Scholarship. In 1997, Modafferi finishes her freshman year with great success. Not content with taking the summer off, as most people her age would be, Kristen decides to travel west and further her studies. She enrolls at the University of California, Berkeley, with a focus on photography. Her parents are nervous about their daughter's over 3,000-mile move, but they don't want to stifle her passion for learning. So, on June 8th, after finding an apartment on the website Craigslist, Kristen Modafferi relocates to Oakland, California. Just 2 weeks into the move, she is already trailblazing her own path in her new home. She finds a part-time job with the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art and a full-time job at Spinelli's coffee shop. On Monday, June 23rd at 6:45 a.m., Kristen pushes past the steel doors that adorn the Crocker Galleria Mall in San Francisco's financial district. Inside the shopping center, Modafferi straps on her apron and punches in at Spinelli's coffee shop at 6:53 a.m. The day is spent making lattes and serving cappuccinos, all the while laughing and telling stories with her coworkers. Sometime during the day, Kristen tells one of her fellow baristas that she might be attending a party later that afternoon at the nearby Baker Beach, with a goodly amount of San Franciscans sufficiently caffeinated. Modafferi bids adieu to her coworkers and punches out for the day. At 3:23 p.m., video surveillance captures Kristen withdrawing cash from a Wells Fargo ATM inside the Galleria Mall. At 3:45 p.m., another member of the Spinelli staff sees Modafferi walking through the shopping center in the company of a blonde woman. Kristen's co-worker notes the sighting as unusual, as Modafferi normally leaves the mall immediately after her shift ends. Kristen and the blonde woman walk very near to each other. Both seem in high spirits and exchange conversation in a familiar manner. At 3:45 p.m., Modafferi and the fair-haired woman disappear from the sightline of the person watching them. Where Kristen Modafferi goes from here, no one knows. At the time, Kristen is sharing an apartment with 4 male roommates on Jane Avenue in northeast Oakland. Since Modafferi is relatively new to them, and they have yet to fully realize the woman's usual comings and goings, none of the roommates are particularly concerned when their flatmate doesn't return home on the evening of June 23rd. On Monday, June 24th, Kristen is due to start summer classes at UC Berkeley, a course for which she has already paid the $925 in tuition to the school. But when attendance is taken on the first day of classes, the announcement of Kristen Modafferi's name in the lecture hall brings only absent silence. Monday is also a payday at Spinelli's coffee shop. Checks can be retrieved by employees at the cafe any time after the store opens. However, by Wednesday, June 25th, Kristen's paycheck sits alone after all of her colleagues' earnings have been collected. Modafferi is aware of her parents' natural concern with she being so far away from home. As such, she has been religious in keeping them posted on her affairs. So with 3 days passing without notice from their well-connected daughter, Bob Modafferi places a call to his offspring's place of residence. He reaches one of the men who lives at the apartment. Alarmingly, the man tells the senior Modafferi that he hasn't seen Kristen in over 3 days. On Friday, June 27th, Bob and Debbie Modafferi catch a plane from Raleigh to Oakland, the same flight their daughter took less than 3 weeks earlier. Immediately upon arriving in the bright side of the bay, Bob and Debbie Modafferi march right into the Oakland Police Department and report their daughter missing. Authorities' response to the parents' concern is underwhelming. Law enforcement believes that Kristen may simply be a runaway, a young girl in a new town who has temporarily let the excitement of the big city get the best of her. Bob and Debbie do their best to convince police that their Kristen is not this type of girl and she would never leave them in the lurch, but authorities are unconvinced. However, when Monday, June 30th arrives and Modafferi has been missing for over a week, they are forced to reconsider, and the investigation begins. Detectives interview Kristen's co-workers from Spinelli's coffee shop. They describe Modafferi's activity and demeanor on June 23rd. They also tell police that Kristen had mentioned visiting Baker Beach and was in the company of an unknown blonde woman almost an hour after her shift on the day she was last seen. Police bloodhounds trace Kristen's scent to San Francisco Municipal Railway number 38 Geary from a bus stop outside the Galleria Mall. Detectives note that this same vehicle would be the one Kristen would use were she to visit Baker Beach. Modafferi's scent is also noted by the canines near the end of the bus route at Sutro Heights Park, but the trail stops here. Scent dogs have only the ability to retrace a path. They cannot determine when the smell was established. Since it is known that Kristen had been at both locations, which the canines hit on at some point, police have to acknowledge that the dogs may be following a trail that Kristen took on a previous day to June 23rd. With the trail cold, detectives next speak to Modafferi's roommates. They provide police with little helpful information. When Bob and Debbie, Kristen's parents, search her room, they find a very interesting potential clue. In a trash can, an edition of the Bay Guardian newspaper is open to a specific page. This portion of the newspaper contains a personal ad circled in ink. It reads, "Friends, female seeking friends to share activities who enjoy music, photography, working out, walks, coffee, or simply the beach, exploring the Bay Area. Interested? Call me." Law enforcement aren't sure what the newspaper exactly means to the case. Could Kristen, new to the city, have placed the ad? Or could Kristen, eager to meet some new friends, have responded to the ad? Detectives reach out to the Alternative Weekly to determine the origin of the advertisement, but when they do, they are met with some unfortunate news. The record keeper for the Guardian tells them that they had just recently purged their logs for the week of June 23rd, meaning no information as to who placed the ad is therefore available. Missing persons posters soon cover the campus of UC Berkeley, the city of Oakland, the city of San Francisco, and the state of California as a whole. An influx of leads pour in, but none of them are fruitful in solving for Kristen Modafferi's whereabouts. Kristen had informed colleagues of her vague plans to travel to Baker Beach on the last day she was known to be alive. Scent dogs led police to a place called Sutro Heights Park. Both locations are less than a half a mile from the Pacific Ocean. The topography of this general area consists of oceanscape and steep, rocky cliffs. As such, police wondered if Kristen could have fell victim to the tough terrain. A circumstance of this nature would not be the only time such an event took place at this location. In 2016, a man named Vincent Holland was exploring the relics of Sutro Heights Bath when he fell off a 75-foot cliff to his death. An unnamed woman who was with Holland that day also toppled from the same height, but miraculously, she survived the the plummet. If Modafferi did have a similar fall, she could have just as easily been taken into the ocean by the tides that butt up to the rocky aggregate as remained at the site. Working against this fall theory, however, were a number of elements. Baker Beach and Sutro Heights are locations that are well visited by tourists and locals alike. Modafferi was last seen on a bright, sunny day in the middle of the afternoon, and in spite of this, no one reported seeing Kristen, and no one reported seeing someone fall into the ocean on that day. While it certainly would be easy to attribute Kristen Modafferi's disappearance to misadventure, there is absolutely no evidence that she traveled to Baker Beach or Sutro Heights Park at any time on June 23rd, 1997. While there was no evidence of Modafferi visiting the Pacific Ocean on June 23, 1997, there was definitive evidence of her being in the company of a blonde woman that afternoon. As this individual was the last person known to be with the missing teenager, police naturally wanted to speak with the unknown woman. However, when police appealed to the public for the female to come forward, she never did. Investigators wondered if the unknown individual's absence in identifying herself was a result of her being responsible for the disappearance of Kristen Modafferi. According to the eyewitnesses, Modafferi and the mystery woman appeared to know each other. Their interaction was friendly, and there was no sign of duress or hurry. Kristen's co-worker said that he did not recognize the woman as someone Kristen knew and had never seen the enigmatic person before. So, who was she? Investigating Officer Patrick Mahaney hearkened back to the newspaper found in Modafferi's room. He wondered if the woman seen with Kristen in the mall that fateful day could have been the one who authored or responded to the Bay Guardian solicitation. However, because of the lost content, there is no evidence to substantiate this theory, and because she has never come forward, who the mysterious blonde woman is and her involvement in the disappearance of Kristen Modafferi is left purely to conjecture. On July 10th, 1997, a man phoned KGO TV claiming that Modafferi was murdered by two lesbian women due to a love affair gone wrong, and her body was disposed of under a wooden bridge near Point Reyes. Police searched the area thoroughly, but nothing was found. They investigated the women and could see absolutely no reason why this same-sex couple would want to harm the missing North Carolinian. Through some clever police work, authorities were able to determine the genesis of this lead, and on July 16th, they found themselves on the doorstep of a man named John Onuma. When talking to police, Onuma did not deny making the call and admitted that the tip was a hoax. John told police that he had falsely implicated the unnamed women because he felt that the two were conspiring to get his girlfriend Jill Lampo fired from her job at the YMCA, where the lesbian couple also worked. Police were incredulous to Onuma's explanation and increasingly suspicious of the man who lived just blocks away from the Galleria Mall. They wondered if maybe it was he, or rather than the two women, who were actually responsible for the disappearance of Kristen Modafferi. This idea was bolstered when authorities discovered that Onuma had a long history of bad behavior. In the years prior, John had placed personal advertisements in Bay Area newspapers for women in the area. When Onuma met up with the ladies who responded to his postings, he would coerce them into illicit activity. Reportedly, John often also recruited the women in his life to act as decoys when meeting these women. Once the correspondents were introduced to Onuma by his accomplices, he would sexually assault the unsuspecting women. One of the women he violated told authorities that John had previously told her that he had killed Modafferi and threatened the victim by saying, "Now that you know what I did to Kristen, don't let me do it to you." When police visited the home of Onuma's girlfriend, the woman showed investigators a diary she had been keeping. Inside the journal, detectives found that all of the entries from June 16th to June 30th had been torn out. Knowing full well that this was the time frame in which Kristen had moved to San Francisco and subsequently disappeared, police were curious to know what became of the missing pages. Onuma's girlfriend said that her beau had torn out the pages, telling her as he did that they could, quote, come back to hurt him. The cryptic threat further buoyed investigators' belief that they were quickly closing in on their guy. Law enforcement obtained a warrant to search the home of John Onuma. Inside of his apartment, a sizable amount of blood is found. DNA testing is performed on the sanguine substance, and it is determined that the blood belonged to a cat. On July 20th, 2001, John Onuma agreed to sit down with the television show Unsolved Mysteries. Without revealing his face, during the broadcast, Onuma told the program that his now ex-girlfriend made up the story about the diary because she was mad that he was leaving San Francisco and breaking up with her. John said that he never met Kristen Modafferi in his life, and he certainly never told anyone that he was responsible for her death. Onuma says that he was offered a polygraph test, and the examination determined that he had no involvement in her disappearance. Police have never confirmed this. In 1999, John Onuma moved to Honolulu, Hawaii, and while his legal troubles followed him to the Aloha State, he has always maintained that he did not kill the missing woman from the Tar Heel State. All right, so what do I think happened? The case of Kristen Modafferi has always stuck with me, and on the 25th anniversary of her disappearance, I wanted to make this video to bring attention to Kristen's story. I gotta tell you, when I research these cases, it is very seldom that you come across a singularly focused depiction of the person that you're covering. But when it comes to Modafferi, literally everyone is united in their portrayal of Kristen as a kind and well-intentioned young woman. It is so clear to me that she was truly a good person, and I believe humanity as a whole is woefully remiss in never experiencing the full complement of what Modafferi had to offer. I am speaking about Kristen now in the past tense because I, like everyone in her life, believe that sadly she is no longer alive. No one believes that someone like Kristen with so much promise would choose to abandon her life. So with that idea off the table, let's try to figure out what happened to her. Real quick, just before I talk about the suspects that I outlined, I want to talk about one that I didn't. More than one, really. At the time of her disappearance, Kristen was living with 4 male roommates. We know that each of these men was questioned by police. However, after that, their involvement in this investigation goes dormant. I don't know if authorities believe that any or all of these individuals had something to do with the Modafferi's disappearance. So while I can definitely see how they could be considered suspects in this case, to dedicate a chapter of this video to their involvement would be impossible, as there is virtually nothing to analyze. So I chose to focus instead on what we can consider. The first of those considerations is the accident theory. And this, for me, was a non-starter. I don't think Kristen was the victim of a tragic accident. I don't even think Kristen went anywhere near the coastline on the afternoon of June 23rd. All of the horrific accounts I read of people losing their lives in this specific area all have one element in common: dangerous behavior. Unfortunate people straying from marked paths, perilous individuals climbing over safety structures, speculative daredevils venturing too near to minacious areas. I don't believe that Kristen Modafferi was this type of person, and while people are certainly capable of anything on any given day, when you pair my assessment with the fact that no one saw Kristen in this locale on June 23rd, I believe that I have just cause to rule it out. Also, attending a party on a non-holiday Monday at 3 in the afternoon, I just don't see it. Now let's talk about the 2 remaining theories, the blonde woman and John Onuma. And I have to say, never in my brief YouTube career have I covered a case in which so many of the pertinent variables distinctly overlap. Each of these 2 theories could be both independently or mutually possible. John could have penned the ad in the newspaper found in Kristen's room. We know that he had written similar advertisements in the past. We also know that Onuma often recruited women to aid in his sexual assault campaigns. Maybe the blonde woman was an accomplice of John Onuma, and each is cumulatively responsible for Modafferi's disappearance. Or maybe the blonde woman wrote the advertisement or responded to it, and she alone is responsible for making Kristen disappear. You see what I mean? It's hard to separate each's likelihood and determine veracity. So here is what I did instead. I removed all the peripheral variables and considered the newspaper ad itself in a vacuum. Now, Kristen's father, Bob Modafferi, is convinced that his daughter wrote the ad. He cites the activities listed in the bulletin, such as photography, music, and walking the city, as all being activities his daughter was interested in. The police are less convinced. They believe that Kristen more than likely did not pen the ad. I tend to side with the police in this instance. I will admit that the mere existence of this article in Kristen's garbage can, with the ad itself being circled, certainly lends credence to it somehow being related to her disappearance. However, when you look closely at the article, I believe the nexus between the write-up and the disappearance wanes. Now, Bob thinks Kristen was into all of the aforementioned hobbies. She must be the author of the advertisement as a result. But look at what the article actually says. female seeking friends to share activities who enjoy music, photography, working out, walks, coffee, or simply the beach, exploring the Bay Area. I will give him photography, coffee, the beach, and exploring the Bay Area. These are all activities that she was certainly interested in. However, there is no evidence that Modafferi had any interest in working out. As such, I think it would be strange for Kristen to include this pastime in her want ad. Additionally, these are all pretty generic interests that I think a lot of us enjoy in our own lives. I mean, how many women can you personally think of that enjoy music, working out, photography, walking, exploring, and coffee? I can think of quite a few, and I think you can probably do the same. So, if you extrapolate that out to a city with over 750,000 people, I think you have an enormous pool of potential authors. I think if the newspaper ad does have something to do with the case, Kristen is more likely to have responded to the article than to have penned it. Consider the fact that when the article was found in Kristen's room, the specific blurb was circled. If you wrote the article, why would you circle it? When you circle something in any publication, you are most often outlining something that you may want to return to at a later time. I believe that it is possible that Kristen, new to San Francisco and Oakland, sees this write-up in the newspaper and eager to make new friends, she circles it so she can respond to the post at a later time. Not only do I think this is possible, I think it is exactly what happened. Ergo, on the evening of Sunday, June 22nd, Kristen Modafferi telephones the number outlined in the want ad of the Bay Guardian. The article's female author answers the call on the other end of the digits. Kristen tells the woman a little about herself, and after listening carefully, she in turn tells Modafferi that she believes the two are certain to hit it off. The women make vague plans to meet up the following day, with the only detail set in stone being the woman meeting Kristen at the Galleria Mall after her shift. So, when Modafferi exits Spinelli's coffee shop just after 3, he sees a blonde woman with a big smile on her face just beyond the storefront. Physical introductions are exchanged, and the two set to the matter of what to do with the remainder of the afternoon. Fortunately, the flaxen-haired woman, a native San Franciscan, knows just what to do on a Monday in her city. She tells Kristen that there is a party nearby, but there is a catch. The festivity has a cover charge, and it's not cheap. Modafferi sees the function as yet another opportunity for the transplant to meet even more new friends in her adopted home, and the fee is an acceptable price for this privilege. She happily withdraws the needed funds, and the two newly acquainted fellows are quickly on their way. However, there is no party, just a trap. The blonde woman drives her newfound compatriot and will be victim to an industrial loft just over a mile from the mall. As the two climb the stories of the building in a freight elevator, one woman is thinking about all the new friends she will soon acquire, and the other woman is thinking about her cowardly next move. Still in the confines of the lift, the dastardly yellow-haired woman removes a gun from her purse and blasts a single shot into the cranium of Kristen Modafferi, killing her instantly. Solely for the procurement of a modest sum, the deceitful woman has snuffed the light out of an extraordinary life. When the elevator arrives at the top of the building, the raptorial blonde drags her prey into the abandoned spread. She spends the next several hours cutting the innocent woman into manageable pieces. The following day, she disposes of the carcass secreted in garbage bags in commercial dumpsters throughout the city by the bay. The disappearance of Kristen Modafferi rocked her adopted state of California, as well as her home state of North Carolina. Americans throughout the country were also shocked and couldn't believe that anyone, could disappear so thoroughly. 25 years later, the United States is still asking what became of the all-American girl who disappeared on June 23rd, 1997. Because Kristen was over the age of 17 at the time of her disappearance, she did not meet many of the necessary metrics that existed at the time in missing persons investigations. Recognizing the shortcomings of these policies, Kristen's parents, Bob and Debbie Modafferi, worked tirelessly to fix the flaws in the doctrines that failed their daughter. As a result of these efforts, in the year 2000, U.S. President Bill Clinton signed into law a statute named for Modafferi, named Kristen's Law. The law provides assistance to law enforcement and families in missing persons cases of those over the age of 17 and authorized $1 million per year to support organizations in this cause. In 2005, federal funding for the initiative was terminated and Kristen's Law expired. However, the spirit of the law has never been abandoned, and its interests continue to this day through the efforts of concerned volunteers and charitable donations. In July 2015, an independent search of Kristen's Oakland home was undertaken. During this probe, a cadaver dog alerted to the presence of human remains in the dwelling's basement. In February 2017, Dr. Arpad Vass, a forensic anthropologist from the University of Tennessee, also visited the house. A proprietary device that he had developed detected the presence of human decomposition chemicals in 2 areas in the exterior of the property. According to Dr. Vass, testing revealed that the DNA matter found matched that of Bob and Debbie Modafferi. When presented with the newly discovered evidence, Oakland police declined to institute subsequent testing. However, Public Information Officer Felicia Aisthorpe insists that her department is wholly invested in exploring any and all leads into the disappearance. A $50,000 reward is being offered for any information leading to Kristen Modafferi's safe return. Thank you so much for listening to the story of Kristen Modafferi. Please be sure to like and subscribe. As always, just before I go, I want to take a moment to tell you just how wonderful a person you truly are. We, as human beings, are capable of so much good, but so often we do otherwise. Please choose to be kind, to respect your fellow man and fellow woman. Treat others as you wish to be treated. It's really simple stuff. As a species, we have the potential for utopian perfection, and all that's stopping us is us. Take this opportunity, this moment right now to be better. Do better. Treat yourself and everyone you come in contact with compassion, then the world can be a brighter place for you and for me. I'm Brandon Smith, and I'll see you next time.